Hi, I'm Ian Hink.
I'm John Finger.
And I'm Justin Ingelmo. And we're the new hosts of Invisible Walls.
No, we're not. We made Seedlings.
Oh, right. Seedlings. That's our Minecraft machinima. You can watch it right now on GameTrailers.com.
Welcome to Invisible Walls. I'm Ryan Stevens from GameTrailers, one of the most heavily weighted Metacritic websites in the world, whatever the fuck that means. With me today is Kyle Bossman from The Final Bossman Show, Patrick Morales.
That was a really loaded intro.
Yeah, I was planning that one.
Okay.
And Rob Manuel, who has been joining us over at GameTrailers the last couple months. He's been working on Science of Games.
Science of Games, Indieverse, as well as Next Tech.
And we'll go into that shit a little. Well, it's not shit, but we'll go into that stuff. I'm throwing words around. I don't know. I'm so pumped.
Because you got a 1.5 on the Metacritic.
Feel that weight.
That's like heavily. I mean,
It's like gravity.
I mean, did they? I know that they went in and they sort of figured out.
It was like Full Sail.
The Full Sail
Right.
went in. They figured out all the numbers, but they never figured out like why certain gaming sites would get like a 1.5 or a 1 or a 7.5.
Just real quick, I realize they did the math, but it still just seems particularly odd since that site is a sister site to GameSpot.
Right.
And GameSpot was a 1.25.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I will go on the record with saying GameSpot is a behemoth in video game reviewing, so it seemed a little weird.
They're gonna put that now in quotes around their site.
Yeah, the quote.
Ryan
Ryan
Stevens says behemoth.
In the biblical sense.
On
Okay, whoa.
Metacritic's Facebook, they said that none of that was right.
Cool.
They
Sorry,
said,
Full Sail.
They
you
said
get
it
an
was
F.
comically wrong. Was their word?
Comically wrong.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
sounds more accurate.
Yeah.
But they didn't come out and say like, okay, this is how some of it goes,
Yeah.
or like this is some of the real stuff. They're just like, we're gonna be very secretive, but we're gonna say that you're wrong. Wink, wink.
Yeah, they do have tiers. They admitted to having tiers.
Well, I know,
yeah.
I mean, this is going to become a Metacritic conversation, but I know like for movies where people don't give stars or numbers and stuff, they interpret the review. So like A.O. Scott in the New York Times will be like, the latest Adam Sandler film was a delightful, whimsical trip romping through childhood and gender roles. And then like all of a sudden it like shows up. So, or they used to. I think they actually asked to be not rated or something like
Right.
that. But you used to work at G4.
Yes.
And I believe at one point XPlay did actually remove themselves from
Yes.
the game rankings
Yes,
and Metacritic.
it was the Game Rankings Metacritic, because the problem was that we had a conversation with Game Rankings, and which many people
you had the
actually
5-star rating,
because
right?
we had a 5-star rating, and a 3-star was our average.
And
Now,
that's a 60.
That's a 60, which is below average on the Metacritic score, and so a lot of people would get furious at us when we give them a 3 out of 5, and it's like, no, 3 out of 5, perfectly fine. Why don't you read the reviews and, check that out?
Read the review.
Read the reviews. I know, hilarious.
internet.
But at the same time, like, it really does come down to, people do use Metacritic scores to get bonuses, to see if like there's going to be another game, to see if like there's going to be more coming out of this studio. And I think it's very unfair in a way that they do use these very sort of like weird scores, and like from all these other companies. Like I was reading, like even some of the highest ranked companies, like I would be like, I don't understand some of them I didn't even recognize for like the highest ranked ones. Like the highest ranked ones should be the sites that you go to over and over and over again. And I was sort of surprised when some of the sites that I do go to, like Giant Bomb, was like
0.5, right?
really low on the ranking.
Comically wrong.
I hope that was comically wrong. That's part of the comically wrong.
Yes.
So this week was GDC. This is an awkward segue. But
Well, no, it was
we
it was
some,
at GDC.
Yeah,
that
no,
they
it was a
talked
Full
about.
Sail talk.
There we go.
So, but I think we're going to shift the focus briefly over to Metal Gear Solid 5, which I think is probably the biggest news story to break, even though I think we kind of all saw it coming in a way. We saw Jeff's interview with fake dude, what's his name?
Joaquin
Phoenix, saying there would be a new trailer. And there was a new trailer, kind of. It was a lot of rehash.
No, there's a lot of good stuff.
No, but I mean, there was a lot of reused scenes from Phantom Pain and Ground Zeroes. But Kyle, I think you were vibrating with pleasure.
I wouldn't use that phrase, but really, yeah, I was honestly still super just shaking excited about how good that trailer was.
Shaking is synonymous with vibrating.
it's gonna be the best crawling simulator in the next generation. I can guarantee you should put that on the box cover. Best crawling simulator.
What I love about it is that it shows this protagonist in fear, and just like seeing Big Boss in his helicopter in the beginning, like that expression on his face when he's seeing his base collapse in the ocean. It's like he's scared, which is a really unique thing. That's like any scared snake looks stupid in any prior game, but they kind of like nailed that emotion, I feel like, and it's.
Well, what's funny is that if you remember our interview with Joaquin all those weeks ago, he promised that the trailer would answer a lot of questions, but I think that it just went in the complete other direction now. Like, there's way more speculation than ever.
Yeah, I mean, to cherry pick certain things, it's like the coma. I know that's with the timeline theorists in the office are definitely questioning the 9-year gap. I'm not so quite as schooled in the history of Zanzibar land and all that stuff. But personally, the stuff I'm most interested in is, I know you make constant references to the flaming sky whale, but I like the kind of weird supernatural element, which Metal Gear's always flirted with, in the sense like, Psycho Mantis, right, had this kind of ESP kind of supernatural grounded in some sort of like soft science thing.
The Cobra unit.
The beauty, like I always felt like the bosses in particular really embodied this, while Snake's just like the ultimate soldier and like cloning and stupid arm things. But I always liked that kind of like how it like bristled up against this sort of, I don't know, otherworldly thing, while being still kind of stuck in this like weird conspiracy jargon stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's Kojima having fun with the form, just when you think Metal Gear is all about, crazy political fiction, he brings it back down to like some fun video gamey elements.
Well, but this one in particular, I mean, the whale, obviously.
Yeah, there's a flaming
steals
unicorn.
The sky. Yeah, but like the unicorn stuff made me kind of, like, I know this sounds kind of weird, but it made me think of like the Blade Runner director's cut, which has all the extra like weird little scenes in it, but like you have something
like
very
fantasy sort of world
science, very kind of like that kind of tech heavy stuff, but kind of mixing it up. And that's what I'm personally most excited about. I mean, again, there's the whole like Ground Zeroes is the kind of the prelude, and then they've talked about open world stuff. I mean, does that kind of stuff matter to you, or are you just kind of in it for the story?
Right, exactly. I've not even like read like the interviews so much about it. Do you know what I mean? I'm just eating the trailers, and like I'm not even like theorizing too much about it. You know what I mean? Like, what does the 9 months mean, and like how does
9
this all
years, right?
connect?
Yeah, 9 years.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, my fear is that they might pull another Metal Gear Solid 2, in that, Ground Zeroes, where you see Big Boss kind of going into this complex, it's like the precursor to the whole game, but really it's all about Phantom Pain, which seems like pretty wildly different than what they've shown in Ground Zeroes.
Yeah, I guess everyone needs to play Peace Walker now.
Yeah.
Which is, you can play on consoles now. You're not limited to the PSP, so that's a good thing. I actually bought it when it was on sale a couple of weeks ago, and I played the first like 10 minutes, which is like a really bad, boring beach CQC combat tutorial. So I need to put a little more time into that. Has anyone here played Peace Walker?
Yeah, I've been playing through it, but you're right. It's a weird thing. It's hard to get into. The people don't blink. Your characters don't blink, and it actually like bothers me a lot, because you just feel like you're playing like puppets more than anything, and the cutscenes are all detached from the gameplay, which is also a weird thing to play in a Metal Gear Solid game.
To reference back to pre-Final Bossman, but one of your, I think it was your post PlayStation meeting video.
The takeaways one?
Where you were like the overlap. I forgot what you called it exactly, but the overlap between next gen and this gen.
Yeah.
Because this right now is Metal Gear Solid 5 is
PlayStation 3,
PS3,
Xbox 360.
Xbox 360.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know if the other things are forthcoming, but I mean, it's good for us, right? Or good for most people, because they'll be able to play it.
Yeah.
But
I think we all want them on the next gen systems, though.
Well, Fox Engine was looking pretty dope.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Have they confirmed if this is going to be PS3 and PS4?
No, they haven't. They just said PS3. Yeah, I mean, unless some news broke. I know we have an interview with Kojima that's being worked on right now. I'm not sure. I haven't been able to look at it yet. Just came straight back from San Francisco.
A lot of people are guessing that Ground Zeroes is current gen, Phantom Pain is next gen, or the other way around, something like that.
Well, isn't like one a prelude to the other?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they said this.
Ground
this
Zeroes
gen.
is Ground Zeroes is coming out first for whatever that means.
I'm also curious what open world means for these guys in general. Like we saw, I mean, being able to drive a vehicle, as we saw briefly at the PAX Prime demo last year. You know, you're not going to give someone a vehicle and give them like the tiniest space in the world to run it around in. So I am very curious. Obviously, Metal Gear 4 had kind of large swaths of land to
But it was
traverse,
still very,
but it was
still
kind of
very
partitioned.
directed. Like you were still getting from point A to point B.
Were there
in those-
loading screens between? Like I'm thinking
Oh,
more.
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I couldn't.
Oh,
hear,
really?
I haven't played it in
That-
like 5 years.
that was-
no,
that-
that's for chapters though. I'm talking about within a level because I remember like chapter 3 when you're trailing the guy. Did that have like micro loads in between things, or was it kind of like the city was a playground? I honestly can't remember.
I can't either. They were different sections.
I
It
think
wasn't
there-
one giant city.
Yeah, I think there were sections and there were
Okay.
definitely parts to it where like once you get past like this point, you're not getting backwards to this point.
How many discs will this be for the Xbox 360? Do you remember the old joke where it was going to be like 20 Blu-ray or 20 DVDs for Metal Gear 4? I'm feeling a little wishy-washy. I mean, I think we all saw like since the VGA trailer when people matched the Metal Gear Solid 5 logo into it within like 7 minutes or something like that.
Yeah.
I think it's still cool. I think the tech looks cool. I think the Phantom Pain interests me way more than the Ground Zero stuff does. I like
Absolutely.
the Parsons syndrome hand claw thing and
Like what a
the
cool,
crawling around, that kind of almost passiveness that they're giving to the Mr. Bandaged Snake dude.
Yeah.
Ishmael.
They've like I don't know of any other game that's been announced this way. Is like a fake title first, but like we're gonna show you this trailer. We're gonna have like these fake people like say that we made this game.
No,
You know
it's
what
a
I mean?
good it's a good circus.
That was
Right.
so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I think occasionally people have used sort of announcements for like engines, like game engines, where it's like we're going to show you this game engine, but in no way whatsoever is this game engine demo that we're showing you right now a game. And
Yeah.
then like 6 or 9 months down the road, it was like, oh, you remember that demo? That was a game. That was I think they might have done that with like Fable 2 at one point or something like that, where
That's
they were showing like a sword fighting. I think was
Okay.
an animation.
That's a good
was done.
segue to the
Oh-ho!
engines of GDC.
The engines of GDC. That's amazing.
And speaking of, at this point, the Infiltrator demo for Unreal should be up, which again, it looks like it would have been a cool game.
no, it looks like a great game. I think
The Samaritan I would have completely played, would have
Right.
pre-ordered.
I think they're really trying to show a lot of different aspects of the game. There's definitely a lot of points where you're like, okay, this is the point where we're looking at sort of collision. This is the point that we're looking at like reflection of water as you're walking through here, and you see sort of that fake illusion going on at the same time as the guy is sort of like hiding behind it. It's very cool. It's very stylized. Like you say, it's very much like a game, and they're trying to tell like a story behind it. But I think what's really interesting about a lot of this next gen stuff is sort of the tech that you don't see that's going on the screen. I think a lot of the really cool stuff is things that are making it easier for developers to make games, to put something out there, to actually include stuff. So one of the things that I'm kind of putting together is the next tech, where we go out and we talk to different people. The one that we just put out was about House of Moves and how they're using in-game assets, and they can apply it to green screen technology. So you can actually see the assets in real time moving with the character, and the actors can also see like where they are in the scene, what's going on in the scene, what it sounds like in the scene, what kind of house they're going into, what kind of beaches, what's the weather going to be like where they are, and actually act to that, and they can actually like sort of tilt and pan and move the camera in real time.
Is that only really advantageous for like canned cutscenes, or is that stuff okay for actual like not in engine, but like in the middle of gameplay stuff? Because when I hear mocap, like I know they
Right.
can like you can have like almost a
I wanna
reserve of moves
I want
to
to say
pull
that's
on.
like you're going to see a lot of that mostly for in the cutscenes themselves because they're gonna get like close-ups and shoot. Like they really want to push like the Hollywood aspect. They really want to push like this scene is going to be as real as possible. Now, something else that came out during GDC, I know Activision had just put out the trailer for it, and then before that was NVIDIA.
The face thing?
And even before that, the next one for next tech that we're going to cut is the face thing, where USC, they worked on these light stages, which have these like hundreds of cameras and hundreds of lights that you sit in, and they have you make faces. They pour, like, they go through the whole spectrum of lights. But once they have all this information, they can actually animate you the way that you would move, and they have it down to like I think the millimeter of your face, so it looks as real as possible.
You can capture all those pores.
You can capture every sort of pore, every sort of blemish, every sort of
Exfoliating gameplay.
Yeah, exactly.
When actually it was Activision. When Activision was making the Quantum of Solace Bond game, and they had they licensed Daniel Craig's face. They were like, we got his pores down, and everyone, like all these game journalists were like,
It's cool.
I've heard of those.
But I have to say, like, it's very impressive. Like one of the projects they worked on previously was Project Emily, where they took an actress face, they took it off her face, and then they manipulated it, and they put on like a fake face as she's doing this interview. And so you'll watch this footage and you're like, oh, she's reading off a script.
And she looks completely photorealistic.
Completely,
Yeah.
You would never guess that the face that she has on is a fake face.
Well, I mean, speaking of photorealistic, I know, like, going back to the Fox engine real quick, I know they were really into showing those comparisons between
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Office, CG,
Horse
wall,
in the Office.
Yeah.
Can I get the flaming whale in the office? That's my
I'm curious where
question.
that whale came from.
You'd first need a flaming whale to photograph.
Right.
They're very rare.
You would have to get it inside like one of
It's like
those
a
light
shiny
studios,
Yeah.
capture it that way, set it on fire,
Put the dots on.
put the dots on. and stuff like that.
Rob, I have a
Yeah,
question.
sure.
So I remember when L.A. Noire came out, a lot of the actors afterward complained that it was actually like very hard for them to act while they're sitting
Right.
up straight.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that they're sort of working on, because like the technology has progressed where it used to be like they would have to be very still, like you're
Yes.
gonna only have like the shoulders up, you're not gonna move. These light studios that I've been talking about, they actually have one that's about 8 feet tall, and it actually you can actually move in it.
Cool.
So you can actually capture it. They actually use that light studio for the Avengers to capture.
At USC or?
Yeah, down in
Oh,
USC.
that's cool.
For the Hulk capture, and I think some of the Iron Man stuff as well. And so this is already being used in Hollywood. They just really want to take this and use it for something that's really really depends on heavy use of CG, like video games.
Just going back to the trailer stuff in general, I think Unreal everyone's going to keep an eye on because they're going to license it out.
Right.
I am actually curious if Konami would start licensing out Fox Engine, because they're not. I mean, they have a
Right.
big titles, but they're a smallish publisher. Obviously, we saw Battlefield 4, which we won't
Right.
go into too much detail because we're going to have an episode of the depths with their graphics guys.
Right.
Obviously, Frostbite 3. Let's divorce the content of the gameplay and F to cut leg, but like the birds flying around,
Right,
the
right.
reflections, that the buildings
The
crumbling,
lights coming through, stuff like
the
that.
god beams. Yeah,
Yeah.
really cool. Only EA games are going to use that, though.
Right.
And
I
EA puts out a lot of games. That's true.
Right.
Frostbite looks amazing. Like on a high-end PC and what we can expect from the next-gen consoles, I'm still not sure if it's that real leap we want. What's the Capcom thing? Deep Down's.
Empty frame. Pentaray.
It's not Pentaray,
Right.
whatever vaporous airs that is, but
Once again, I think like next gen is not necessarily about taking this next leap, but trying to work better with sort of like this technology and working better with developers to create something that's amazing. Like,
well, if stuff looks like Fox Engine on
Yeah.
current gen, I think people are going to be pretty happy.
No. People are going to be ecstatic, but being able to take something like that and to like start playing around with it, I think, once again, like Battlefield 4 is great. Don't get me wrong, But like for someone to look at that and be like, okay, we're gonna make a platformer using this, or we're gonna use like an RPG using this, or like we're gonna go somewhere completely different than they have any thought about. Also, a lot of people are bringing sort of these high-tech engines like the Unreal Engine to mobile gaming. I think Havoc was one of the companies that made an announcement during GDC that they're going to actually bring sort of like the Havoc engine or a type of it to mobile gaming. So now you're going to have like something that looks a little bit closer to what you would consider on the console market. Now, in the palm, on an iPad
Unreal,
or like a phone.
Unreal's obviously been focusing on
Right.
mobile with Infinity Blade. I mean, Unity's everywhere now.
Of course.
Unity signed that thing with Sony. They're on the Wii U.
Which is amazing.
I got a press release a couple weeks that Unity's on BlackBerry 10. Like,
Yes.
sorry, BlackBerry or RIM, whatever, but
Right.
good luck with that.
But the fact that they're looking at like different markets, being able to, work with multiple consoles, multiple, mobile, PC, whatever you happen to have with you, and be able to work with them all at once. And that's what they're aiming for. That's what they're sort of making. They're trying to make it a little bit easier for people to do what they can imagine.
Are you foreseeing shorter development cycles?
Yeah, I could see shorter development cycles. I could see maybe, not having to, put 10 people on a project, but maybe 5 people on a project. Or maybe...
But asset development is not going to change.
No, but you're still, like, once again, going back to what we were doing with House of Moves. They also have a device. They actually rigged up a device, a medical device, to figure out which way your eye is moving as you're doing things. And so they can actually put that in with all the other assets. So, as they're recording your speech and your talking and your movements and stuff like that, they can also put in your eye movements, which
Is needed so people don't look like dead stuffed animals.
They don't look like dead stuffed animals, but usually eyes are done by animators.
Yeah,
and so instead
it's
of
hard to do.
Yeah, it's really tough to do. And so instead of animators, spending, a couple of days working on eyes, they can spend a couple of days working on assets, or they can spend a couple of days, tweaking, a giant dragon or who knows what.
And then your people can blink. The other, real quick, I just want to also hit, since you're working on Indieverse with Kelly Santiago,
Yes.
new episode this Saturday.
Yes. Yes.
I just want to briefly mention the IGF stuff.
Yes.
I think it's, FTL won a bunch of...
FTL and Cartlife. And one for
Cartlife won narrative, which I don't know if anyone saw my narrative thing that I put up
Yeah,
this weekend.
Cartlife.
An important game.
Narrative. It also won like the big sort of like
Seamus something,
Yeah.
not Blackley.
Yeah, exactly.
Seamus McNeely or something.
It won the big award. It won 2 other awards as well, and basically like it was complete sweep, almost a sweep. FTL won for design and audience awards.
Yeah.
Audio was 140.
Kentucky Road Zero got like graphics or
Was
visual something.
Right.
Yeah, I was pretty happy with what happened. I was very depressed reading comments on Cartlife, and I understand people want games for escapism and stuff, but I also like when people kind of push, like the comments on the review were very, very vicious here. But
What's an example?
Why would anyone want to play this? This is pretentious bullshit.
Yeah.
And they watch the whole review.
And I think people may have a point to that degree. Maybe it's not something you want to play, but it's still important. Like I don't want to read Uncle Tom's Cabin, but it's still an important book that had a great impact on history.
Right.
That's the weirdest
that was a really
metaphor
good, I
I've
like
ever given in my life.
But I think like it should be like escapism, but at the same time like Cartlife puts you into a situation that you hopefully will never have to ever be in during your life as a video gamer, like having to like do this drudgery and do this work.
And personally, I think that game is a visual treat.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like some of the stuff. Like I was as we also the first Indieverse, we also touched upon it, and as I was going through the footage, there was just so much stuff where it's just this. You're watching the guy, and it's like the end of the day, and he's taking a shower, and he's naked in the shower, and it's just like this one scene has so much force in it, with him just like looking like like the world has just like crushed every dream in his head as he's going down, and it's just literally maybe like a quarter of the screen. The rest of the screen tells you how well you did like that day, but it's so depressing. It's just so soul crushing. Just watching that, and to have that in a game, to have that sort of feeling in a game, because so many times you play some other games and you're like, well, that was fine. Well, that's the same old, same old. Like very recently, there have been a number of games where it was like, well, that was good, or that was expected, or that was, it was a game.
Like a God of War Ascension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gears. It's Gears.
Yeah, it's Gears. And it's like, we shouldn't have to do that. We shouldn't have to be in a point where games are like, well, that was the same old, same old. Like, you should,
Push boundaries.
Yeah, you should push boundaries, but you should at least feel something when you play a game. If you're going to spend that much time in a game, if you're going to, it's like reading through a book and then, putting it down and not remembering whatever you read in the book. It should at least touch you. It should at least, leave some sort of, impact on you after you finish with it, because it should be an experience. And this is what we should try to get away with every single game we play. Tetris. Exactly.
And just on a final note, I think Patrick and I can finally reveal that FTL was the secret game of the year at GameTrailers.
We've been holding it in, but it's definitely true.
So
congrats,
congrats,
you guys
FTL.
were really for
I think I played
FTL.
more FTL than anything else last year.
Of course, FTL was a fantastic game, and it's tough. We actually the next episode that we're doing is about curation as well as getting games known into the limelight, and it's tough when even games like this, like FTL. I feel like FTL, everyone knows FTL, and I'll talk to someone and be like, oh yeah, FTL, and they'll be like, what's that? It's like, oh, how do you not know FTL? And so Chris Hecker from Spy Party actually gave a talk during GDC, and you can find it online. He actually did the whole thing, and he talks about even his game, Spy Party, this game that's been in production for 5 years now, the game that's been on people's top list for all of those 5 years now, the fact that they keep pushing it all these 5 years, and the fact that no one knows about the game. Or he'll talk to other people, or he'll talk to developers, or he even talk to people in the media, or other indie developers as well, and be like, so Spy Party, and they'll be like, what's that game? Oh, you're putting this game together, what's it about?
And now an awkward segue to a game everyone knows about. Spy Party's awesome.
Spy Party's amazing.
Asymmetric multiplayer, and acting like a Turing machine. But BioShock Infinite, and we'll keep this short. There's a review. We did a live stream, but you are playing.
Yeah, I'm playing it right now.
Yeah, Patrick, I know you've been playing. Have you dabbled yet, Kyle?
No, I'm waiting to borrow it from free from
Okay.
GameTrailers.
Well, we're gonna spoil the shit out of it.
Okay, let's do this.
We're gonna
No.
we're gonna keep this short,
We'll
but
keep it short.
I've already said my say a lot. I was just curious. You guys are early-ish.
Yeah,
into
I'm
it.
very early-ish into it.
It's one of those games where it's both a game in the most traditional sense you
Right.
could ever imagine, but through its pageantry and artistic vision and what's going on, it does kind of take a little step up and kind of puts itself somewhere else. And I know I've been talking around the office. It kind of reminds me of the second Nolan Batman film, the one with the Joker, Dark Knight. Dark Knight, where it's kind of like it's a little heady. You're going to think about it a little bit,
Right.
but it's also got people punching the shit out of each other and stuff
Right.
like that.
I think it's.
And I hate making cinema metaphors because I feel like it's the easiest thing to go to. But I think it's a really good game. But I will go on record. I think for me personally, it has been less impactful than the original BioShock.
Well, yeah.
And years have passed and whatnot. But I think in the end, I like the original BioShock more, even though I think this game is maybe a little more. Well, without going too much into the ending and all the weird
Right.
stuff, you probably going to expect there's going to be some twists and turns.
Yeah.
It's engaging in a different level and maybe a bit better. And yeah, the gameplay is opened up more. It's a little more twitch. But I think, again, just that descent into Rapture versus the climb into, and seeing the city and stuff, they are very different games. It's funny where they break from tradition with each other and where they combine. They're almost equal, but I think in the end I have to give a slight nod to the original BioShock?
Oh, completely. I think they're very different games. Like I would say, this is Infinite is much more of your traditional shooter, but definitely moves away from it. You definitely, there's a reason for every place you're going. You understand like more of story. I mean, pretty much everywhere you go is fascinating. Absolutely fascinating. Like the little shops you go into and little people you see, and like I try to listen to every person I come across, and I just want to listen to every single conversation because it's really cool. But I completely agree. I think the original BioShock like just draws you into this world, while this one, there's a bit of hand tipping, like very early on. I feel like in this game where it's almost like something's coming up. Like the brother and sister, or like the man and the woman that you keep running into over and over again is a little too sort of like story. Like here's something that's.
It's the pulsing quirkiness.
Yeah,
look at me.
Yeah, exactly. Where at first it was like, okay, and now it's just like, oh, okay, now you're pulling me back away from the story, and it's like, okay, you're sort of like putting together.
Again, without saying too much, it's weird how everything kind of, in a way, ties in, and not maybe in the most concrete ways, but in like a weird kind of, I hate using the word, I use the word meta way too much, but in a weird kind of, there's a weird kind of cohesiveness for a lot of the weird decisions. I'm playing the game through again right now, and it's interesting to go in with a little bit of knowledge.
Guys, I think BioShock is a game, Infinite too, that I kind of feel like obligated to play. Do you know what I mean? I feel like it's one of those games where it's just like, dude, you should play that game. You know what I mean?
That's Dark Souls.
Yeah, well, Dark Souls as well. Do you know?
I feel like
there's
a lot of games.
I don't feel like there are that many games. Do you know what I mean? Where it's just like everyone's got to play this game to like know what it is to like video games.
It's like a gamer's game and it's a mass market game.
Yeah.
And the AAA games tend to do this, but this one even more so.
I think The Dark Knight was a fair comparison because it's like everyone's got to go see that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a movie that a lot of people who are not, who don't know Batman nearly as well as probably some of us, would still appreciate it because, it's people kicking and punching and big explosions and, a love interest in the voice.
No, people don't appreciate
like
it.
I feel like a big idiot for not playing that game right now. Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's this conversation that the whole world is having right now.
I feel like that's for like any game that you get around. Like there's usually like a water cooler game that everyone gets into, and like for 2-3 weeks, like everyone's just talking about it like constantly.
I used to work at G4 too, and when I didn't get a 360 at launch because I was and then everyone was playing Oblivion, and I would just sit there and scratch my nose. I made a really bad blog post a million years ago about like what if you could only participate in forums and Twitter conversations with the game if you had like a social pass, and it was tongue in cheek and people didn't get it. But I mean, that's like the added bonus of getting a game at launch day or launch week with it.
And it's sort of, it is, I hate to say it, but it's sort of like a religious experience because everyone sort of goes through it, and everyone wants to share. It's like, what did you do? What did you do? Oh, when I came up to this, what did you do? Oh, when you were given this choice, we even had that conversation like just maybe like an hour ago. It was like, you're given this choice during the game. What did you choose? What did you choose? What did you choose? And it was like this weird sort of like everyone's going around and sort of sharing stuff. Like and it's a game that does lend itself to doing that. And there's not always like those games out there that give you the same sort of stuff. Like Oblivion, definitely. Skyrim was another one. Borderlands, it's like, what kind of gun are you playing with? I got a gun that can do this.
Do you think that is unique to our workplace? Or do you think that's like
No, I mean,
like
just
for the
forums.
audience?
No.
Yeah. But I mean, like at a high school. Do you know what I mean?
it's-
Like, do you think it's the same at like a college friends?
I think
like,
it's unique to our place because we have so many people who play games all the time. And so you're into this environment that you can like turn to someone who's next to you and go like, hey, did you play X?
Yeah.
Versus like
Watch your DPS.
Yeah, or versus like, if you happen to work at like a law office or if you happen to work in accounting, not necessarily everyone's going to be playing, BioShock.
But I think the online kind of community does kind of supplement that.
Yeah, exactly.
I think once we have a couple more people finishing the game, I really want to do the depths on this game, talk about it in depth, and go totally spoilers with the ending and really discuss stuff because I think it's going to be easy to cherry pick. So hopefully you guys will play it. And
I have a question
back.
for you then. Do you think I should wait a month to borrow it from the GameTrailers library, or do you think I should buy it this weekend for $60?
I'm replaying it right now. You can borrow my copy.
Okay.
There you go.
All right.
Money where your mouth is. We have another very special guest with us. We have George Gabriel, I believe.
Hey guys.
He's another intern. We are rolling deep in interns this semester. George is what you call a Nintendo fan.
Absolutely.
He will admit it. But we're going to talk
Calm
about
down, George. Calm down.
We're going to talk about Luigi's Mansion. Chris actually did the review, and I remember I was a little surprised with the score, but I picked it up. No, I'm being honest here.
Daniel Bloodworth was offended. I remember him seeing that score and like reeling at it. Yeah.
This game is amazing.
It's
and
worth it. Yeah.
I barely touched the multiplayer. This is such a good game. It's making me want to hunt down Next Level's Punch-Out, which I barely touched, and maybe explore it because I think these guys really know what's going on.
I remember some people saying that about Punch-Out too, actually. Yeah.
Scratching certain itches.
It was really good, and you could, if you beat it the first time, like a lot of people.
You got Donkey Kong, right?
Well, a lot of people actually complained that it was a little too easy, and so like if you beat it, like they were like, okay, we'll give you the real stuff, and they really made like the classics.
And all the boxers like covered up their weaknesses the second time around.
Yeah.
It was cool.
interesting.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
really
it was-
cute
I wanna-
ideas.
wanna
Like
pick
it
that
was, it was very well done, very well.
So Luigi Mansion got a lot of cool stuff like that.
But I want to hear from a new voice. So George, you've been here a while. You've been indoctrinated into the GameTrailers practices for
Is that
better
like
or
Mass
far
Effect
worse.
3?
It's exactly like that actually. But I want to hear in your words, why is Luigi's Mansion a good game?
Why is it a good game? I think they
To you.
spent a lot of time on it. I think they paid attention to detail. The mansions are incredible. The puzzles are very cool from what I've played. I don't know, can we talk about the first boss?
Yeah, you
Or-
can talk about whatever
I
you want.
mean, like pulling the spider web out and having the knight set it on fire and, like
Spinning the fan,
Yeah,
like different
spinning the
ways.
fan,
Yeah,
like,
like,
that was
whatever.
one of-
Okay, since I haven't played, what is the first boss? Like what?
The mansion gets more and more spider webby as you do the missions, and then you fight a giant spider. But it's one of those kind of classic puzzle bosses,
Oh.
I would say. Though it
There's
does
a-
end with a ghost.
There's a ghost inside the spider.
Yeah.
the spider's
It's a
possessed.
good spider. It's not a mean spider. It's just that there's a ghost inside of it.
All spiders are mean, except for Charlotte.
So anyway, like Luigi's Mansion, the first one, didn't have cool boss fights like that. Maybe the final
There
one.
was the
but,
special ghost. There was like 50 special ghosts or something. I'm trying to remember. Or
Yeah.
something like that. This Luigi's Mansion to me and its mission structure honestly, this is gonna probably another reach, but it reminds me of Majora's Mask's dungeons, where you beat the dungeon and then you have to kind of go back in with the fairy mask and rescue all the fairies, and it makes a good use of like overlapping space.
Yeah,
Even though as
totally.
it opens up
Yeah.
to new areas and it kind of does alterations. Like we've seen games kind of alter spaces before, but usually I feel like it's kind of like a lackluster effort.
Right.
In Luigi's Mansion, I feel like I'm playing mini Zelda dungeons that are packed with the puzzles, but the combat, and here, like in Zelda, I love it's the reason I think I gravitated toward Dark Souls and Demon Souls back in the day. I love the shield and sword stuff. And the combat in Zelda's always been fun. I think Skyward Sword probably upped it a little bit with the directional stuff.
Yeah.
But here with the vacuum cleaning stuff, this is not a particularly overly easy game. I thought the first Luigi's Mansion was very easy. Like here you can definitely eat it. You can definitely die. Then the little dog bone saves you. and the dog licks
Collect
you.
golden dog bones. Yes.
Yeah. Spoiler. Not really.
Just a tip. That's a pro
I've
tip.
totally gotten I haven't gotten a game over screen, but I've totally had to use the dog bone a couple times, get a second, a continue.
right.
As it were.
For me though, that when I did die, it was because I was trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? It was more of the puzzle than just like this is hard combat. It's just like, oh, obviously I'm supposed to figure this out and this out and this out.
And it's not really an inventory game, even though it's puzzle heavy. Where like Zelda, you would I really do feel a strong Zelda connection with this game, which I know sounds.
I think it's really
weird.
fair actually.
But in Zelda, you get the dungeon item, and that's used to solve the brunt of the stuff. Maybe, and you use some of your old tools as well. Here, by 10% into the game, they've given you, to my knowledge, I haven't beat the game yet, but they've given you all of your tools. So it's basically you have your verb set, and it's all about you have your vacuum cleaner, you have the suck, the blow, the dark light thing,
Yep.
and
Your
the flashlight.
Yeah.
And certain particular situations may kind of have an additional item, but it's a little bit of a MacGuffin more than like an actual usable item. So you have this limited verb set and these little tiny intricate rooms that, for the most part, yeah, they'll scroll a little in the directions, but they're really small environments that are really carefully detailed. And like we were talking about the first mansion, as small as the area is, you'd be surprised how much you can miss, even if you're like trying to do everything everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I was trying to be a completionist for the second mansion because I had all my stuff, and I still missed. I did pretty well. I found all the hidden booze, but I'm still missing 2 gems, and I went like deep.
Yeah.
Ryan, I love hearing you talk about a game like that. You know what I mean? Where like you want to collect like most games we don't want to collect everything in. Do you know what I mean?
Well, there's that kind of like
Yeah.
the like I'm not sure, but like collecting all the booze gives you an extra mission, so that's a cool reward. I
Yeah.
think I'm assuming that I couldn't see too much happening with the gems,
Oh, it's
but
gonna be
there's
something great. You know it's gonna be something.
no, it's like going to be like a badge icon or something. But it does kind of give that rewarding itch that, like, you know,
Yeah.
we were talking about in BioShock,
Right.
you know, how you want to talk about your choices. I hate like what I hate about the corridor shooter. Everyone has the same experience.
Right.
I like to be like, oh yeah, I found that gem, and it's not that like it's not really the bragging rights even. It's just the idea that like we've shared an experience, but they've splintered and they've been
Right.
been different.
Like I was actually, once again, going back to an earlier conversation, one of the things that came up was a couple of people have actually started turning on all the faucets in the game, in BioShock. And they're convinced, absolutely convinced, if they turn on every single faucet in the game, something great's gonna happen.
It was Megan. It was.
Oh really?
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
But like, there's like a couple of games have done stuff like that. Like for Fallout 3, like one of the first things I did was I would pick up every ticket that I saw on the floor.
Yeah, you guys are just doing crazy person things.
But I
Yeah.
thought something great would happen. It would
and
be
nothing great happened, right?
No, nothing great happened. but it was-
These gems though. I'm convinced these gems are gonna mean something.
exactly crazy person thing.
I know.
Crazy person thing.
But there's actually a screen that shows you how many gems. I don't think there was any sort of acknowledgments for tickets or water faucets. But
they
it
were
is
in
the idea of crazy secrets. I mean, it's the reason we're. Oh, by the way, a good time to plug. PopFacts is going to be taking over the website on Sunday. Tons of little Easter eggs for you guys to check out on Easter, our favorite pagan holiday. But George, since
You know what's funny is I feel like when you're
But-
promoting the website, you stare at us and not into the camera.
because I feel dirty.
Yeah.
Even with my 1.5 Metacritic weight, I can't perceived.
That's
I think
pretty
especially
hefty.
because of, yeah.
But is there anything else you'd really want to like highlight about the game?
Oh, the
I'm interested.
multiplayer, man. The
Oh yeah,
multiplayer
I
is so
only touched
fun.
it very, very briefly.
Me and Kyle played briefly in the office, but I've gone through and played a lot at home. I went through last night. There's like the 25 floor hunter mode. I got to floor 16 with a bunch of random online players. Tons of fun. The bosses get super hard. The environments change too. I mean, you're still in the mansions, but like on floor 15, all of a sudden there was sand all over the floor. So then you're moving slow, and then the ghosts are coming after you to get you.
Are you guys cooperative, or are you guys just kind of like, oh, I'll see you later, I'm gonna go? This goes
Usually
over?
it'd be like 2 guys would go one way, 2 guys would go the other way.
That's so cool. That's really, really
and
cool.
it's so natural since there is no voice chat. You just immediately say, "Hey, I gotta go with this guy."
Yeah.
You don't
Right.
even think about it.
Yeah.
At first, you can do it. The first few floors, you can go
It's
by
so funny.
yourself.
It's like
But
Journey,
after a while,
basically.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking about that, especially with the sand on the floor.
Yeah.
definitively, I think it's a great game.
Are the floors randomized? Or is it
In
always
that,
the same
in that
lo-
mode, I think they
the
are.
same layout?
Sometimes I think they get recycled, but mostly it feels fresh.
And like where the enemies appear and where keys are, I think changes
Yeah.
and things like that.
So surprisingly good multiplayer.
Very good.
Nothing else really like it, right?
I mean, other than the first
Well, for
Luigi's Mansion,
multiplayer,
but
yeah.
multiplayer,
I mean,
no, I don't think
I'm
so.
a novelty vampire, so I'm always after new experiences.
so
and
fun.
sucking
It's
them
so-
in.
Especially on 3DS, I'm not sure what else you would find that's like that.
Nothing. I don't.
Monster Hunter,
Oh yeah, you're right. That's
kind
right.
of.
But
That's-
there's,
that's
but
got
there's,
a-
still a
it's
very
not the
different
same
game.
thing.
Very
but
different.
there's no online play on 3DS Monster Hunter.
Oh really?
Just Wii U.
Huh.
Well, George, thank you for stopping by. Hopefully, we'll have you on again.
Appreciate it.
Oh my god! Kids are GTFO. Get your fucking boyfriend playing. Ha! You suck, bitch. Go play some girl games or something.
So last week we had people bring in topics. We have a slightly less of a rotating cast this week. We got some special guest stars. I hope everyone liked George the intern. But is there anything else anyone would like to kind of talk about other than Metacritic?
Go ahead.
Oh, no. One of the things that is coming up at GDC, like right now, sort of like the hot button issue, was the IGDA party that happened. So they happen to have this party at GDC. Everyone has a party.
I'm sorry, what's IGDA?
Independent Games Developer Association.
Okay.
And so they threw a party, which is perfectly fine. But this year they happened to be co-sponsored with this other group that I can't remember right off the top of my head. And this other group was like, no, don't worry about the party, we'll take care of it. And of course the other group is like, what do guys like? Girls in bikinis.
I
And
like one pieces.
And
but-
so they have this party and they have like these dancing girls in fuzzy bikinis.
The IGDA party.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Exactly. and that is the exact sort of response that everyone's been getting, because like this year, especially with like into last year with like One Reason to Be, and they even at GDC, like one of the biggest talks was the One Reason to Be talk. Bringing women, treating women in games, understanding that there are certain behaviors you should have, there's certain behaviors that should never be acceptable, and this happens to them. And so a couple of people I know, a couple of people have already, like from the higher ups, have already quit, and a number of people have also like just completely gotten away with it. And some people are saying that it's too much, you're pushing it, this is like a little thing. But I happen to think there's been a lot of little things that have gotten, people have gotten away with.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make an example. You have to make a stand somewhere. And I think they're perfectly in their right, and they should be outraged. But we need to keep this sort of talk up. Like we need to keep talking about like what can we do about women in gaming? What can we do about getting more women into development? What can we do about sort of creating an environment where you don't have to turn off your microphone when you're playing a game, or you don't have to feel like you're going to be harassed whenever you go into a multiplayer game? And I think that's really important. That's what we need to be doing. That's a conversation we need to be having constantly until it's over. And I don't think it's going to be over for quite some time, so we still need to keep this conversation.
Yeah, I mean, how long ago was the guy was it even at EVO, or was it a non-EVO event?
That was a non-EVO event.
That was a Capcom thing.
There was that. There was just Bros Before Hoes.
Yeah, I mean, like stuff like that happening over and over and over again. Like there was another one with at PAX where I believe Megan Marie. They were talking about there was harassment there, like at a party, and it was just like I keep saying, this is why we don't have nice things. This is why we can't have. This is why whenever there's like something bad happens, people turn towards video games, because like we still have this sort of like boys in the basement sort of club that's going on, and it's
like this set right here.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I mean
exactly.
we had
and
Megan
that's
on.
why I'm
we had
burning this place down as soon as
No,
we're
I
out.
mean we had Megan on a couple weeks ago for Assassin's Creed, and I would say, there was definitely some awful comments, but for the most part, people were pretty nice.
I'm happy to see a woman.
Yeah, but even that's kind of always weird. There's always the joke is like, you need to have a girl do the news. It's like that.
I don't mean like that. I mean
there's
like,
these
hey,
weird trope things. Like, it's like I'm going way on a tangent here, but it's the thing where like, Connie Chung was really successful, and then all of a sudden there was Asian women news reporters everywhere. No, it's kind of weird where like these kind of, you can swing a lot in the other direction too. But this came up when we had the Bros Before Hoes discussion, is even if it doesn't seem impactful to you, I think what you hit on earlier is it's like a bunch of little drops of rain falling, you're going to get soaked. And like the multiplayer, that's a great way to go, is just go into this public forum of multiplayer and headsets. I think the Hey Ash that we had last week completely illustrated that in the beginning too, is that this is how it is.
Well, I was talking to a
and
friend.
it's not good.
No, it's terrible. And I was talking to when I was talking to a female friend of mine a while back, and it was one of these. I saw a device where it was like disguise your voice online, and it was like funny voices, or like there was one choice that was like make yourself sound like a man. And I was like, oh, this is completely silly. And she was like, no, I'd buy that. And I was like, no. And I was like, wait a minute, why would you have to buy that? And she was like, because if I want to talk to someone online, I need to sound like a guy. And I'm like, that is the saddest thing I've heard. That you want, like, your time that you're spending like by yourself, that you want to just enjoy something, like the same thing that everyone else wants to do, and like you're just going to get harassed. You're going to get, you know, people yelling at you because you sound like a girl.
I will say it was also very game community-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, you've worked on a ton of reviews in
Right.
your life, I know. What was really eye-opening for me was was playing the Avatar multiplayer game for the James Cameron movie.
Yeah.
Everyone I played on multiplayer, their gamer tags were things like John 12, you know, like people's names with numbers next to them are like really like positive things instead of like, you know, XX Guns, XX 420, Dank Nugs, Trunks, DBZ Forever. And it was just interesting. And like, I know this is sacrilegious, but I played a lot of Left 4 Dead on the consoles, not on PC. I actually found like the Left 4 Dead on Xbox 360, played with a lot of women. I mean, that's so much more of a cooperative experience. I don't remember if you can talk trash if you play versus, but it was a way better community for that stuff as opposed to where I mute everyone when I play most first-person shooters.
And I think one of the things that did come up, also came up during GDC, is that like one of the core, like the new core gamer are going to be women gamers, like because there's a large number of women who now want to, you know, they want to play games just like everyone else. And I think we should be encouraging this. We should be getting out there. We should, you know, focus. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I love indie games so much, is that they have like such different voices and such unique like outlooks on things that are, it's almost welcoming to other people versus, you know, you go to other games that might be less than welcoming.
Good point. And with that, this episode of Invisible Walls is over. I don't know the number. Marcus will be back next week. He'll know the number. Thank you so much, Rob and Kyle, for joining us. Patrick, a pleasure as always. That's this week's show. Bye.
See this and other GT shows and game reviews on the GT Originals iOS app, available now on the App Store.